I'm too young to have grown up with the NES, the legendary Nintendo Entertainment System that helped video games become a massive entertainment industry that went on to shape so many of our lives. But nostalgia is a funny thing. Beyond simply going back and playing some of the best games that older consoles have to offer, I created my own sort of nostalgia for eras of gaming before I was even born by watching people older than me rant and rave about them on the internet. I think many of you know that the angry video game nerd was the undisputed king of early YouTube game reviews. At the time, his gimmick was frankly genius. You know all those warm fuzzy feelings you have for that one licensed game the developers were only given 2 weeks to finish? Well, screw you and the stink-ass Monster House game you love so dearly. Half of the games you played as a kid blew chunks, and James was here to tell us all about it. The internet's always been there to laugh along at gaming's most egregious software, to the point that back in the day, just about every other game reviewer on YouTube wanted to be the AVGN.
I have a smoke.
AVGN.
And some of them just copied everything he did verbatim. I'm looking at you, game dude, you silly little scamp, you. But being so pissed off at parts of the gaming industry that sucked ass was one extreme. Were there any good, creative options that provided the opposite perspective in the early days of YouTube? Well, the folks over at Screw Attack were too busy calling your favorite characters slurs, and then there were shows like Happy Console Gamer and The Happy Video Game Nerd, but the first is a simpler show with a dude just casually chatting about games, and the latter was a direct AVGN parody that eventually formed into much better content on Stop Skeletons from Fighting. We love you, Derek, #1 Zebo enjoyer. A show that I personally believe fits the bill perfectly was Awesome Video Games. It was never as popular as the likes of AVGN or even some of his biggest clones, but I would say I think it's just as good and as important as James's work at the time. A tidal wave of nostalgia over this show rushed into my brain randomly last year. Ironic for a show that's all about nostalgia, I know. And I just kind of want to tell you guys why I like it so much. It just so happens that the first episode recently hit its 20-year anniversary. What better time for a girl to ramble on about it? But if we're transporting all the way back to 2006,
Mark this day in the history books, for today,
Super Mario Brothers
hits the shelf.
it just doesn't feel right to be depicted with such high pixel density. Personally, I like my pixels how I like my women. Chunky.
Look, Mama, I'm the big retro in the big 2026. Wow. This show stars Ace and Chet, two simple-minded goober brothers who fucking love everything about video games.
Hey dudes and dudettes, welcome back to Awesome Video Games. I'm Chet, and I'm Ace.
The 90s most inclusive gamers ever. Now, whether they're two child characters played by adults or two man-children, that's up for the viewer to decide. Awesome Video Games is all about, well, video games that are so totally awesome! The show starts out pretty simple. In fact, the first episode has zero gameplay as these hyperactive doofuses hype up the unmatched power of the NES.
This case is also rugged and ogre.
And throw it at each other's heads for some reason. You'll soon find out that they have very few brain cells to lose anyway. We're also introduced to the duo's quirky dad, who reluctantly supports their hyperfixations throughout most of the series. And while today this video may look like straight dog shit resolution-wise, shocking, I know, considering its resolution it's pretty close to the NES's own stunning high-res graphics. I'm instantly super impressed by the show's animated intro for the time, though admittedly the flashing that I've slowed down for the sake of watchability is a little much. But let's just be fair, epilepsy is kinda like left-handedness before the 1920s, it just didn't exist yet. It also has really good editing, and the dynamic camera work is way ahead of anything else on YouTube at the time. The crazy twisting and turning of the camera really sells the radical, nostalgic Wayne's World-ass 90s feel that these guys were shooting for. In the second episode, these guys finally remember that Nintendo's gray rectangle can play gray rectangular games, and they introduce us to an obscure indie gem, Super Mario Brothers. These two are so damn excited about everything. Their overreactions alone could carry the entire show's existence for me. I can totally buy that these guys would have their minds completely blown by the mere existence of the Mario Duck Hunt game selection screen.
Whoa!
They're so easily impressed. I also appreciate their approach to what would end up in the future becoming kind of stereotypical gaming jokes. These guys fucking suck at Mario. And video games in general. It honestly surprises me that these two guys even know how to walk on two legs. Not only are they so clueless as how to avoid the first Goomba in World 1-1, they have to go out of their way to, as thoroughly as possible, remind themselves how to use the A and B buttons on their controllers, which makes it so much funnier than it would be otherwise.
You may have noticed when you purchased the Nintendo Entertainment Gaming System, the controller comes with two buttons, A and B.
It's a little confusing, I know. Little way to help you remember it is thinking about a baseball and an artichoke.
It kills me just how often they struggle so hard to get past the first screen of any game they review, and all the while they're just having the time of their lives. I think it's a pretty good representation of how it feels to play even the simplest game as a tiny child, repeating the same sections in a game over and over and over without a care in the world. This show gets so close to feeling like what could have been a cynical, negative take of what could have been a real 90s TV show hyping up video games. These guys barely know how to use a controller, they barely understand how games function at all, but what makes the show avoid that trap is their genuine positivity, and that makes the show so infectious and fun to watch. And at least they actually talk about video games. Club Mario, this is not. In the Friday the 13th episode, they introduce a segment called Quick Tips. Tips that'll help fledgling gamers as inept as themselves to become total gamer gods.
It's time for an awesome video games quick tip!
These tips never end up being anything that'll actually give you any sort of edge in a game. Expect hot tips along the lines of, don't forget to plug the controller in, bro. These tips are made to help gamers like themselves, the lowest common denominator. We're 5 brief episodes into this thing, so what would you expect next? 5 more episodes of the boys hyping up a few other games or accessories available for the NES console? Nope. I hope you love that jolly old fuck St. Nicholas, because it's time for 5 Christmas episodes in a row. These guys drop several Christmas episodes every single year, and I can't deny that it gets a little tiresome when watching everything in order. And apparently Let It Snow is the only Christmas song these guys have ever heard in their lives, because it plays on near constant loop in these episodes. But, at the very least, these episodes do have some really good gags here and there, so it's really not that big of a deal. And that's a really funny way to get around the lack of a bunk bed prop, but if Chet breathes the wrong way once, poor Ace is gonna be squashed. The Christmas episodes also provide what could be most closely described as a main plot for this show, as the boys attempt to convince their darling dad to buy them the oh-so-coveted Super Nintendo. It's so cool, it's literally encased in ice. The Double Dragon video just kills me. I don't want to spoil all the jokes, but I think this one's a great example of just how inept these tubular dudes are. They start up a single-player Double Dragon game, and this is how they respond to the opening cutscene.
We just beat the dragon! Yeah!
It's priceless. The dragon is truly defeated, I guess. And then they decide to play the 1v1 multiplayer mode. They completely just ignore the game's mechanics and start trying to defeat the wall because it's Ace and Chet's world and we're all just innocent bystanders being bombarded by their stupidity. The Gyromite episodes are where I think things really get going. Finally, they manage to escape some dude's poorly lit living room, and now we're working with an honestly really impressive set for the remainder of the show. Now it really does feel like a lost 90s TV show that was shilling for Nintendo products.
According to this officially licensed Gyromite instruction manual, we need a robotic operating buddy to play this cartridge.
What started off kind of like the first Nostalgia Critic episode, which was just Doug Walker's excited ramblings with zero footage of the media being covered, was about to evolve for the better. Both the AVGN and these guys made videos about Rob, the famous kart racing robot. But while James decided to make his own brilliant video by being as spiteful as possible towards the little guy, Ace and Chet remain so damn nice to Rob the entire time, even as he keeps screwing them over. He turns evil and stuff, he even starts attacking the boys. Jokes that are pretty damn expected at this point. weirdly enough. But in the end, after all of that, they still love Rob anyway, wishing the little bot a happy birthday for some unexplained reason. You might be thinking that the setup to these jokes sounds like some sort of dorkly garbage, but luckily I think they managed to avoid the trappings of that kind of humor with some really unexpectedly funny punchlines.
So we've been doing our research, and it turns out most of the creatures in Green Hill Zone have been turned evil.
That little guy we asked for help earlier is a Motobug, and Motobugs hate hedgehogs, which is what Sonic is.
And in the mid-2000s, believe it or not, you could only upload videos up to 10 minutes long. It was a pretty restrictive time for creatives, but I can't exactly pretend like it's YouTube's fault that everybody had a 10-hour-long intro sequence back then. What this meant for awesome video games is that many of their stories had to be told via multiple very short episodes. But that did give them some funny opportunities, like opening up some episodes with some really funny low-energy reenactments of previous parts.
Oh no, Rob's evil, that's not awesome.
And there's another important character that I haven't even talked about much yet. Ace and Chet's peculiar dad named, Dad. A character who begins simply as a means to tell a single repetitive joke.
Oh, Dad. Take out the trash.
Eventually becomes a clear favorite for whoever was writing these episodes, and a lot more important to the plot.
Whoa! We're out of balls! Already?
Oh my, boys. I haven't taken that many balls to the face since high school.
Kinda like another dad named Dad.
Awesome.
Dad is and always has been my favorite character. From the strange way he speaks and conducts himself in every scene, everything about him always gets such a big laugh out of me.
When you first boot up this title, you'll be greeted by Jack Nicholson's handsome visage.
I also dig his unusual suit and shorts combo, along with his legendary clean-shaven legs. I can appreciate a man with a gorgeous smooth pair like that.
I wear my tinted spectacles in the evening so I can read the periodicals.
Honestly, the way he talks kind of reminds me of Pops from Regular Show. While he does try his best to be pretty supportive of the boys, at the end of the day, he's still their old man who just doesn't get it, my dudes.
Parents will never get it.
What he wants to see from these boys around playtime is a little goddamn responsibility. And all the ways he goes about encouraging this behavior he wants to see is just so wacky. In the Bad Dudes episode, Ace and Chet want to become just as bad as the muscle butt characters in their new favorite game. Bad Dude. Dad clearly doesn't like the sound of the boys becoming certified bad dudes. So what does he do about it? He finds a way to get the boys to rat on themselves over the bad things they've done by giving them a call and pretending to be from the government who's seeking help from the boys to rescue the president. It's just silliness at its purest.
I just got off the phone with the government, boys!
It's less so about the shitty games that suck ass, or genuine classics. It's all about the vibes and silly scenarios that each game presented when writing each goofy scenario. Playing Dr. Mario ends up getting Chet sick. Oh no! Leaving Ace on his lonesome to defeat the viruses in order to save his brother from disease in the real world. They pretty much went for, if you die in the game, you die for real! I'd say the Game Genie episode was their first truly great effort on all fronts. Their cousin Lester is a treat of a side character. He's everybody's favorite balding teenage rebel.
Hey. Oh, hello, pretty girl. A magical quest full of fun, magic, and adventure. So taking this.
It turns out that cheat codes aren't just a little advantage that can help a player out in retro games. In their universe, doing codes and getting high scores is no better than getting into hard fucking meth.
Boys, are you doing codes?
Uh-oh.
Whoever taught you about codes?
And with the power of the NES Advantage controller's turbo function, they're able to be whisked away into Mario's world, providing... Just look at this shit, this makes for an amazing GIF. Even in spite of all of the repetitive catchphrases these guys say,
Let's beat some games!
and the repetitive background music, these wacky stories and the upbeat attitude make it really hard for me to get tired of this show.
You're not mad, Dad?
Wait. I'm furious.
But I gotta admit, as much as I love these two, even they couldn't avoid crafting the whitest video on the internet. Okay, I'll be fair. This is the second whitest video on the internet. But all of that leads us to what I personally consider to be the magnum opus of awesome video games. The awesomest of all episodes. The Punch-Out episode. My god. Everything great about this show is so on point in this one. Ace and Chet explaining to the audience how to defeat the title screen.
To defeat the title screen on Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, you're gonna need to utilize the control pad on your officially licensed Nintendo Entertainment System controller.
They misread the meaning of Glass Joe having achieved 1 KO as 1 killed opponent. It's fucking genius.
Glass Joe has a record of 1 win, 99 losses, and 1 killed opponent.
Let's just be honest, Glass Joe is a manlet beta cuck, so that means the only way he could have accomplished that kill is by bringing a fucking Glock to the ring. Dad's flashbacks to when he was a child are hilarious and are reminiscent of a certain Dr. Doofenshmirtz. The clever use of sound effects related to the games they're playing to emphasize key moments adds a literal punch to just how funny each line can be. Ace has an entire dialogue sequence with the Doc Lewis sprite in the game, featuring near-perfect lip sync, by the way. Dad ends up training Ace on how to become a pro boxer in real life, utilizing comical familial abuse.
Dad, how's this gonna teach Ace how to box?
Teach Ace to what now?
In Punch-Out, your opponent will have a tell, a certain action or body movement that informs the player of when they're about to strike. The line between the game and their own world becomes so blurred that they just start doing it when training Ace in real life. And Ace's face is so expressive all the time, it alone makes me laugh my ass off so hard. And Dad just won't stop aura farming.
What was your tell, Dad?
Well, right before I throw a punch, I look gorgeous.
I could talk about more with this episode, but do you want to know the best part? All 7 parts of what might be the longest episode in the series, all of this brutal training Ace goes through, is just so he can beat the game's second opponent, Von Kaiser, who isn't even hard to beat in the slightest. The most obvious option when hyping up Ace's big bout would be the game's infamous final battle with Mike Tyson, or I guess at least Mr. Dream, but again, that would have been too obvious. With these guys, beating bosses that a 10-year-old could conquer without much hassle is a near impossible task, and I wouldn't have it any other way. These last several episodes are where the show peaked, ending off with an incredibly fun Excite Bike episode.
What's this, Ace? I thought you loved Turbo.
Along with their best ever Christmas special, featuring a dramatic betrayal when Ace asks Santa for a Sega Genesis after getting peer pressured by Lester. But in the end, the boys finally get the Super Nintendo they've been begging for years. Aww. There's so many more rad moments I could talk about, but that's awesome video games. It's such a fun and silly series that I could never get enough of. These guys' energy is so infectious. You can just tell that these guys were having a total blast filming these videos. If you want a show that does an incredible job at capturing the most ridiculous parts of early YouTube and early 90s nostalgia, definitely give it a try. It's free to watch on Far From Subtle's YouTube channel. Well, this show ended in 2010. That's about right before HD started becoming a more common thing on the site. So we might as well go ahead and return to the beautiful realm of HD, eh?
I'm so dense and full from pixels, yum. We still got a little bit more to cover, and this is where the story of awesome video games gets a little weird, but I'm gonna do my best to recap what happened after the show ended. Some of what happened involves some seemingly valid fan gripes with the channel owner, and Reddit. I really hate trying to wedge myself into drama stuff, especially when it isn't something I was really following at all until making this video, so I'm only gonna touch what I absolutely have to. Awesome Video Games was a moderate success for the time, but it got absolutely trounced on by AVGN and other shows that people still remember to this day more fondly. Awesome Video Games as a show ended in a really good spot, and I'm personally glad it didn't go on forever, just to end up losing a lot of its luster dumpster. Like, apologies to the AVGN, but I think even the most diehard fans know it just isn't quite as entertaining as it used to be. That's not a knock at James at all, by the way. Keeping the same exact show up for 20 years is a truly crazy feat. The Far From Subtle YouTube channel ended up experimenting with Let's Plays, just as they were starting to become a popular thing around 2010, and that's when the channel actually finally took off. Some of you watching may be potentially more familiar with this Let's Play spin-off, cleverly, I guess, titled Video Games Awesome. Okay. And that's because Video Games Awesome Let's Plays were way more successful than Awesome Video Games ever was. My god, this naming scheme sucks. They left character acting behind for the time being and embraced reacting to video games as themselves. And I did give these Let's Plays a fair shake. They're honestly pretty good, but I just never ended up watching them very much at all. They just never appealed to me nearly as much as the really endearing scripted stuff. Over the years, the channel kept losing crew members one by one, all the way until the channel's owner was operating the channel by himself and doing Let's Plays solo. Nowadays, it doesn't seem like he does much of anything. Maybe the very occasional stream or re-upload, but otherwise, the channel seems pretty dead at this point. Eventually, the crew decided that they wanted to bring Awesome Video Games back from the dead, but this return was announced with a pretty vague trailer. It just featured some footage from old episodes, along with the promise that there would be some brand new ones eventually. This trailer, unsurprisingly, directed you to the Awesome Video Games Patreon to pledge your support with your big old dollar. Now, this trailer dropped almost a decade ago, back in 2016. So, where exactly are these new Awesome Video Games episodes? If you guess nowhere to be found, then sadly, you'd be just about right. The ever-reliable Kickstarter/Patreon empty promises. Classic. But yeah, a new season of Awesome Video Games does actually exist. Kind of, but I can't show you guys any of it outside of a little peek at the Awesome Video Games Patreon, because every little piece that is currently available for this new season is still, to this day, locked behind a goddamn paywall. This season has been in production for nearly a decade, and forking out $5 per month remains the only possible way to view any of it, even after all this time. Now, like I said, some of the reason this new season remains unfinished starts getting us into some drama stuff, but here's the short version of what's going on. It would seem that the channel owner just doesn't feel like editing. The entire season wrapped up filming at least 7 years ago, and yet he seems to believe that leaving a project unedited for that long, while people have been paying up for a decade straight for nothing, is somehow remotely excusable? So yeah, that sucks. Oh, but he has found a new passion for AI slop, so at least now I can comfortably say, while avoiding any sort of fandom drama, that he can go fuck himself. But for something a little more positive, at least the actor behind the ever-iconic Dad supports trans rights. I knew I chose the right guy to be my favorite character, and despite all of this nonsense, my curiosity was way too high to not take a peek at what was behind the stupid-ass paywall. So yeah, I caved in. I wasted 5 of my hard-earned dollars on this borderline ghosted project because I just had to see what was up, and what I ended up seeing pissed me off so much, and not for any of the reasons you might be expecting.
Could you give us AVG for $5 per month?
This Patreon locked season, although unfinished in the editing bay, is amazing. It's just as good as the original show's final stretch of episodes, if not better. This might be the peak of Awesome Video Games as the most awesome it could possibly awesome. It's all in HD, the physical humor and dialogue is better than ever, they finally got to mess around with the Super Nintendo. It's so good, and I can't even show you guys any of it. Ace gets to dress up like a girl multiple times, which is pretty fucking based. There's a brand new set that looks more slick than ever, and the episodes managed to effortlessly avoid feeling like a pointless extension. They clearly had great ideas just sitting in the back burner there for years. And it's a little more adult too, but in a way that feels natural for the evolution of these characters. Just a smidge of mild cursing and violence to spice things up a little. And none of you can watch it. Seriously, please do not support this dude's borderline scam at this point, beyond the $5 depressing that I had to drop to report to you all about this lost season. This sucks so hard, dude. This is not awesome. I'm genuinely pissed. I get that life happens and things get in the way sometimes and editing takes time, but people have been spending thousands to see this work come out. And I'm not even factoring in his second Patreon account that's just for the channel in general. The show's biggest fans have been being ghosted off and on, and barely any progress is being made at all for almost an entire decade.
He's been working on this series of YouTube videos since Obama was in office!
We aren't talking about some crazy indie film masterpiece. I know enough from my own experience from making a YouTube video or two that it does not take this long. God, it's such a downer. But Ace and Chet? They'd never let junk like this get them down, so neither will I. Just watch that new season when it hopefully drops on YouTube before the heat death of the universe. In the meantime, feel free to watch the whole original series on YouTube for free, and I hope that you guys get as much joy out of it as I did. Anyway, my gamer dudes, my gamer dudettes, my gamer dude thems, stay bodacious, my gamers, and be sure to play some awesome video games. And be sure to always stay careful when traversing that blue sky and the ground that's always made of bricks.
Take out the trash!
What are you doing?